Welcome to the J3U University podcast. I'm your host, John Jewett.
And I'm your co-host, Luke Miller.
Our mission is to elevate the physique coaching standard
and deliver the highest level of competitors to the stage.
Let's jump into today's episode. Upper lower split design. We're all looking for that perfect training split that's just going to cause an explosion of muscle growth. And there's all kinds of ways to go about this. We see full body setups. Very popular is push-pull legs. Of course, we have just a traditional body part setup split. Some people call this an offensive term of the bro split, like you're not quite as smart if you're following something that's single body part per week. That's offensive. So we call them just a traditional body part split. But there is an upper lower split that fits amongst all these and applications to certain situations and how we set this up structure wise for an individual session, but also some in-betweens. If you are doing push-pull legs, at times you might have some variations of upper, lower, and push-pull legs mixed together. I know it's mind-blowing that you might not have think outside the box. So Luke and I, we're going to break this down, probably starting with, where are the situations we might see upper, lower splits come into play, and then getting a little bit into setup design for how you would want to run a session.
Yeah, and split design is just about the benefits and detractions of each split design and which ones does that match for what the athlete needs, in my opinion. And so when we look at upper lower, the things that start to flood into my head are typically, one, like the type of person that it's typically used for is going to be that intermediate person kind of getting out of the beginner stage. They've moved from full body into that upper lower split design, just because most commonly that's kind of where it fits in the natural progression of split designs. However, and I know, John, you had mentioned you'd gotten a lot of questions about it recently. There are places where it can fit in potentially more advanced settings where we talk about potentially kind of how much they get out of a per set basis, where we can start to talk about where it would fit. And then in some of these mixture designs as well, it might be beneficial, John, to kind of dive into some of the detractions of upper lower, some of the benefits of upper lower, kind of map those out before we get into specific cases. Because to me, the thing I love about upper lower is, if you're trying to learn specific lifts, frequency is typically pretty high. We're kind of putting a lot of priority on primary compound work. But what gets a little bit tough is when you start to get into more specialized program design to hit volume landmarks. And to me, that's the biggest potential negative, is having efficient work in upper lower while hitting all the volume landmarks. Would you tend to agree with that as the primary first negative?
Yeah, I think that gives some understanding too of where this comes into play. When you talk about kind of a beginner setup could be a full body split. I will say at least most of the clients and athletes that are coming to us, they're usually already been training for at least over a year,
for sure,
to some capacity, to where full body just doesn't have as much application. We're not reverting many people ever to full body. And I feel like even the people that are listening to this you've picked up weights for longer than a year, to where you're already at a point where upper lower might be a consideration. And so we're kind of falling into this. And so moving from that full body, why you even started with full body to begin with, and setting the context of even any of this moving between splits, is that as a beginner, a little bit of stimulus does a lot. So you could have one set for, say, a bench press, and that's going to make you grow. And how long does it take to recover from one set? Well, not very long. So you could repeat some type of chest work again in 2 days. So the stimulus is low and the recovery capacity is really high for a beginner. So that's where we see where you can fit a lot of work into a session. They're also, within each exercise, you don't have a high strength level yet. So you're not going to have all of these sets building up to this high strength level either. So this is the beginning stages of why you'd have a full body split, and how you set the framework up from progression from there. Of at some point you're strong, you're having more warm-up sets needed. Now your sessions are getting strung out more, and that same stimulus is going to need to increase because it's just not quite enough off of one set. But also you have the next problem of not being able to recover in time to repeat that process. Enter the upper lower split, right? We now get more work in a session for a particular muscle group. However, it requires more recovery time for between sessions. So now we see upper lower comes into play. And just to take that one step farther, the same thing goes for someone that's advanced. You need more stimulus per session, more volume, particular muscle groups. However, it extends out the recovery timeline, and why we see people then go to like a push-pull legs split. So where you can easily see like where this fits into play, and the beginning stages is, have you probably maxed out your stimulus on a per set basis? And if you have not, well, that upper lower split might very well be sufficient, or could be a regression and a progression in the same way, right? If you have someone, because I've had people come to me, Luke, and you probably have too, that are training beyond their current level of experience, to where they're following that, maybe that body part split, or even a push pull leg split, because they're popular bodybuilders doing it. However, they absolutely need to get more out of each set, and we want to work on pulling that out on an execution front. And in turn, they don't need as many sets in a workout, and we can condense that session and stimulus into like an upper lower split and kind of have a regression pattern that takes place. I'm sure you see that come across your door, right?
And that's where, to me, the mixture comes in very well, because from a client management perspective, it's kind of hard to regress someone fully all the way to strict upper lower, like especially if they come from PPL and they might not be where they're providing, like you said, that stimulus that's appropriate. I love the mixture design, the push pull legs off upper lower. Like, I use that so much in this exact case, where you're regressing someone's where they're at technically from like a split design setup, but progressing their ability to learn how to deliver the stimulus, which then to me raises their glass ceiling as an athlete of how much they can progress. And so that's where, if you then start to talk about, okay, upper lower can be kind of flexed and used in different ways, like that's the first place I go, is that PPL off upper lower. Secondarily, it fits great for a 7-day schedule too. Like, that's probably the second consideration to understand with that mixture setup too.
Yeah, I think it's more common that we see people that are training beyond what they could be getting out per session. Because almost everyone, even advanced people that come across, like even for myself, like I'm still every moment trying to get more out of on a per set basis. And I do that. So my total volume doesn't change much over time. And so I think that's more of the common problem than having someone coming in that's like underdoing their training. Like, yeah, you've been on this upper lower split. Like, I feel great all the time. Like, I definitely need, more stimulus in a session. So I think that is a more common issue. However, you could see someone that's been on some type of split, and I feel like it's probably more of an issue when you get into specialized body parts, where that's kind of the case, where someone just is following like a generalized split. Maybe it's push-pull legs, but within that, the volume spread out just doesn't give enough stimulus to those body parts that really need to come up. And I feel like that's when you have that flex as well into something that's upper lower. I've had situations where like we want to bring up legs substantially on someone, and we just simply cannot train upper now 3 to 4 days per week. And we move someone to like a total upper body day and pull out a lot of the, not the fluff work, but just keep it like really bare bones, like compound work. And it's moving someone to a maintenance volume relatively for upper, so we can give so much more lower in place. And so we still have now what you mentioned earlier, that kind of push pull legs, upper lower split. So it's used in just a maintenance volume situation for that type of athlete. I think the other one that I would bring up is when you do need to transition someone from a phase where they needed a high stimulus and the recovery was there. So this might be in a contest prep. I just did this with a client. We're in prep following like a 5-day split, moving to post-show, food's coming up, recoveries and health parameters are trying to improve. We move them back to a maintenance volume, and scheduling-wise, a 4-day split was going to work really well. Also, in turn, legs was still a priority point. So upper, lower were great. And so we're giving them this extra rest day during the post-show phase. Then once we do move to our push phase and, PEDs are up, recovery's up, we can move back to doing a 5-day split and a higher stimulus across the entire week. So, there's ways, even, and this is someone that, I consider like a higher intermediate level, trainee.
Yeah, and it's so useful, like to be able to flex back into that in time periods like that where you could use it appropriately. It makes a lot of sense. Where I think people start to conflate it is like its application in extremely advanced like athletes is like it's a little bit more. I don't even want to use the word minimal, but it's rare cases in which an advanced athlete can get away with it.
I think once you get so advanced, you're going to have a pretty tight volume confines to what drives muscle growth and also what upholds it too. And so to do that big of a move from a split design from like push-pull legs all the way to upper lower, there has to be some type of like, either they were just training total shit before, which would kind of question you're not really advanced to where they get that much more stimulus out, but it just would be such a rare case. So I would see it as like, probably it's a pretty big regression to just a maintenance level of training. Or there's some type of other offsetting factor. Like we went from gear level 0 to 100 with PEDs, and we were going to grow off way less training, which is not the way to do it either. So like you said, I think the applications once you're advanced are very low. I also think the majority of people we're speaking to do not fit within being advanced. And let me just put that caveat there, is you don't want to be advanced either. So don't take offense to it. Like you want to be able to train less and grow even faster. The advanced guy doesn't grow fast. That sucks. So
yeah, I think too, like it might be worth, because there are going to be quite a few that listen to the podcast that could be potentially using upper lower as like some of the things to watch out for as you go through upper lower, because there are some things to consider, especially for like crossing patterns like fatigue carrying over into the following day. Like the main one I see is if the lower session is very hinge based, like not having the upper day be back day priority. So like in that upper lower dynamic, like the uppers could have a bias towards push or a bias towards back, even though they hit all body parts, right? And so there's like some small things like that I think would be worth it. But that's going to be a big one for me, is because you're like prioritizing the compound work so much, there can be carryover from the compounds that tends to take away from training performance, but also making sure that the upper sessions don't lead into taking away from the lower sessions, or vice versa if you're doing lower upper, right? And that back training volume headed into a hinge is probably the most common one that I see in upper lower become a problem.
Thanks everyone for tuning in to today's podcast. Are you struggling to hit your peak on show day? Feeling lost in the off season? Upgrade your coaching game with J3U University. Our program covers everything from off season to contest prep to peak week, all based from real client results. Along with our comprehensive physique curriculum, you'll also get access to our 4 rooms with our J3U team to answer any questions you have, and live Q&A sessions to further your coaching and athlete experience. We are the source of education for top IFBB pros and coaches. Join us to elevate the coaching standard at J3 University. Let's get back to today's podcast. Yeah, at least how I like kind of the basic bare bones of how I would structure it overall for someone that's upper lower, because someone that is doing upper lower, you are looking kind of for more overall growth. However, you absolutely could have some slight specialization even within an upper lower. But to your point, Luke, that first upper day would be push based, and then I would have back work secondary. So you get the most stimulus and output for push, and then all your back movements would be chest braced. Right. And so then when you go into your next leg day, usually it's hamstring focused and then quad bias towards the end. Then your second part of the week, you could have your back bias first in that upper session. And it could be, if you're doing something non-chest supported, it would be fine. Then your push work. Then your lower body in turn would be quad work, and you could have that quad work be non-axial loaded. So it's like where you have your hack squats in, and then your hamstring work for the day is also no hinging, just all kind of leg curl work in turn. So that's just kind of a general framework of how I would set that up as a whole, but there's still deviations that you can make based on even your needs if you're trying to bring something up, right?
Yeah, I mean, and there's ways to make upper lower a bit more specialized, right? Like I've got an athlete that could potentially fit in an upper lower. We don't because of his schedule, but back development is just out of this world. And it's like, you could just have both upper days be push focus and just all the back work be secondary, because it's like, there's so much delt and push need. It's like, or delt and chest need. It's like, you just do delts and shoulders for every upper body day, and potentially even a touch of volume of delts on one of the lowers, because delt frequency to me can be a lot higher than what people typically program. And so like, that's a way that you kind of push an upper lower into a specialized. It's like just kind of messing with that session structure a bit.
And even slight volume parameters could shift a little bit too. If you're running a program, you're realizing, wow, my back just, I could smash it on this session, like completely recovered. My total volume for the week is recoverable. Then you could even make some slight volume bumps just to your back work, for instance. And maybe you're noticing that is the body part that is a little bit slower to respond in a weak area. You could absolutely do that. So that alone is already going to specialize this program design for you. And then you can further go into this just from movement selections also that would bias you towards a certain development. Like if you're doing, quad work, you need that biased hack squat over something like a Smith squat, where it's going to bring up some glute as well. I think one athlete area that are nearly always on upper lower splits are some of the female categories.
Oh, yeah, so good.
Especially wellness bikini. They are nearly forever on kind of upper lower split designs. And sometimes you get really far into it of like only lower. So that's the case where you do have to make a lot of considerations for that session overlap and managing fatigue across a lot of the axial loading that takes place. So usually within those times, sometimes it's lower 3 days a week, right? Yeah. And so all your back work is primarily going to be chest braced work, and of course chest pressing isn't very much of an issue with your competitor. With bodybuilders, you need to consider your pressing and the ability like it to get underneath a bar. If you're going to have a lot of press work into like a barbell squat the next day, that might be a consideration point, but usually it's not an issue for your wellness and bikini divisions. But within that, I think a lot of people try to write this all out on paper and are like, does this look right? Does this look right? And we've talked about this before, is like, put something logical together and run it for the week. And you'll quickly realize if it's set up wrong or not. And then you adjust from there, and across weeks, you're going to finally get to a program that's really catered to what you need mechanic wise and exercise choice wise, and also within that recovery capacity too.
Yeah, 100%. And just as like a nice little like caveat on the female program design side is like, you almost get away with it just being like 4 days per week. So 3 lowers, 1 upper, because so much volume is not being used towards chest development that it's almost just taking that and replacing it with leg work. So you just kind of have this back and shoulder day, and then the rest is just lower work. And if you need some back development, maybe you do some on the back of one of your posterior leg days, but that's pretty much it. And it's like upper lower can be so flexible to the needs of the athlete too. It's where it's like, I've even used it in figure, like girls in figure that need so much more lower body development, where it's like upper lower just fits that athlete.
And it's funny just how we, I'm sorry, I'm jumping to a different kind of topic, but within this too, of like, athlete design with these splits, just the naming, I think can get people really thrown off. And I think just don't limit yourself to, if it's called an upper day, that you only just train upper body and there's something like lower on it. You just can't do that. So just always consider, like, you look at your needs development wise, and then look at your current program that you're doing now. And that's your start point. Okay. Cause I see people that are like, show me a program. They're like, what do you think about this volume? It's like, I don't know, because I don't know what you're doing right now. So what if you go to a program and it reduces your volume? Like, you're going to be in an atrophy program, not a hypertrophy program. So, look at your current program and what that's doing for you. So look at your volume per muscle group, look across the months you've been training for, your visuals and your lift increase, and see what is that doing. And so if certain areas aren't moving and developing, then those are the areas to start moving volume up on, or trying to improve your stimulus if that's the issue. So don't just jump to that split design that you think looks right, because it might actually be lowering the volume for you. We see in even studies that those subjects that lower their volume, they don't grow. So that's your start point. And then from there, start making shifts in volume. And you'll realize that through that, the split design will fall in place, because you can only put so much volume on push for one day. And you might need to move, for instance, some side delt work to back day, because the push work is so high and you don't need as much back. But to what I was getting to, Luke, is that for labeling, is that some people have brought up a posterior day, right? I think maybe, I don't know if JP made this, trained by JP, if he made that kind of famous or not. I don't know, or famous, if that's what we want to call it.
Whoever gets the credit, here's your credit.
Yeah, whoever is this credit, you get the credit. Face the curtain day, win the show day. I don't know what you call it. But yeah, so it's like push, posterior day, off, push, pull legs, or something like this, right? With posterior day being back, glutes, hams, the whole backside. But usually there was like a leg press in there too. So now what are you looking at really? It's like, well, gosh, that's nearly a full body day. Yeah. Or we label it, we like list out every body part except push. So, you could have days like that where it is a day where you address like weak body points on one session. So don't feel like you can't shift volume or muscle groups to days that don't have that right labeling. It's just purely a way of titling across the week. But ultimately, your volume per muscle group and how you need to divide that out is what dictates the split design. Don't do it in reverse and find the split design and then try to fit your volume into that tight constructs.
Yeah. I'll even, for like psychological purposes, I'll call it auxiliary day for a lot of people, just because it's like,
sound like a powerlifter.
Yeah.
That's very athlete based, right? Sport based.
Yeah, but it's basically to detach them from it being a specific body part. Like I'm just trying to get them away from it being something body part ish, and they're just like, let me hit my landmarks.
We call these all like weak body part day. Some people like Meadows would call it like pump day or something, right? And he would throw like the extra work on there. So whatever you need to call it for your own psychology.
Is there anything else for upper lower you would consider as far as like using it as athlete or coach or anything along those lines?
Oh, gosh, that covers a lot of ground.
Yeah, the only injury profile is the last thing I would think of, but that could be a deep dive. Like just you brought some of it up, like some of the cross transfer of how quick those sessions are going compound to compound. Like a lot of shoulder strain transferring into some lower body compounds that also have shoulder strain, or anything along those lines, or like axial loading, lumbar loading. Like watching injury profiles is a big one, especially lower biased, upper lower for females who pose a lot. I see a lot of that crop up as well.
Yeah, no, I think it's just really just making sure that that's going to be the right program for you. And if you are running something like that if you're realizing like towards this end of this session, it's getting towards like an hour and a half plus, and you just notice the quality for that secondary muscle group is really dropping off, likely you're at a point where you do need to move up to the more advanced split design and spreading out some of that volume across the week. The same thing goes if you're doing something that's more advanced beyond your means, of that you might feel pretty fresh by the end of that session and fully recovered easily by the time you're going to be training again. That might be a consideration to digress in that split design back to like upper lower. So, but first things first, like I brought up, like assess what you need development wise, look at what your current volume metrics are, and then look at where you need to move forward to progress your physique. And that should be dictating the split design. We do have some examples of these in J3U of how you would set up fully, like from starting muscle group to the end within each session in our hypertrophy module in level 1. So that just released this last month, our updated hypertrophy module. So that's all in there. We have some PDFs, great resources. So, and help you kind of break it down if you do need whatever split it may be based on your volume metrics, how to accommodate that for you. So I think we can leave it there.
Yeah,
And any further questions, guys, leave them down below. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you next week.